You see what I did? His numbering is out of sequence.
Ah.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Talking Smack, where we talk superheroes, movies, animation, comics, and much, much more. I am your host, Josh Scar, and joining me, as always, is everyone's favorite hairless wildlife creature. Wildless creature. What's a wildless creature? A wildlife. I got wildlife and hairless mixed up in my head. We've been working on compound words for school with my kids, and I created a whole new one. But Alex is here. That's where I was trying to get to. Is Alex is here. How we doing, Alex?
I'm good. I'm trying to figure out what compound words you are teaching the kids, like wildless.
Wildless, yeah.
I mean, the English language is very modular. You could do something like that. Now I suddenly sound like Christopher Walken over here for some reason. It's like, what kind of compound words do you want to put together, Paul Atreides?
Well, you bust out the walk-in when you do the math. You go, what's 1 plus 1 equals 2, and then 3.
And then when you have a light and you want people to stop, it's a stop.
I think that's more Woody. I think that's more Woody Allen.
I don't know.
Got a little nutty professor in there. We're making it sound like we're recording later than we did. It's actually earlier for us. It's not later.
No, this is my pre-drunk. I mean, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, the Packers and the Steelers did not do well this week, so
No.
I mean, we should probably be drunk.
Oh man, the Steelers today they did what they do, which is they played down to a terrible team. They don't play up; they play down. They played down to a terrible team,
That's
and
right.
At one point it was like 10-24. I'm like, cool, thank goodness. It's like the third quarter. I can go away. I can sob and recover, and then I come back and it's like, oh my god, it's like they're doing it. No, 24-27.
Yeah, I mean, Packers lost by 2. Jordan Love took him 2 quarters to shake off the rust from his bruised MCL.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't pretty, and it took the Vikings to not do their fancy defensive stuff. But we're not here to talk about depressing sports ball stuff. We're here to talk about a movie that might make you a little depressed, but in a good way.
Happy depression.
Yeah, happy sadness. We're here to talk about The Wild Robot, but first we're going to hear from, I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's some change-ups that have happened at the Game Club Pod. So without running the Game Club Pod promo, that might be confusing for any new listeners who's like, oh yeah, let's go listen to these guys. We're going to run the 2 Blokes from Blighty promo that Tim and Joey have so kindly provided. So we're going to hear from Tim and Joey over on the Game Club Pod feed about their other podcast, 2 Blokes from Blighty. And we'll be right back to talk The Wild Robot.
Hi, I'm a bloke.
And I'm another bloke.
And we are from Blighty. My name is Joey. I'm joined by my co-host Tim.
Hi.
Where every single Wednesday we come at you through the Game Club Pod podcast feed with our show, 2 Blokes from Blighty. I tried to think about the kind of topics that we talk about on 2 Blokes from Blighty. Tim, what's your favourite topic that we've ever spoken about across our 3 seasons?
The fiasco of me shaving my head.
Mine is the fiasco of you shitting on a toilet seat. If those sound like things you want to hear about, join us every Wednesday by searching Game Club Pod in your podcast provider.
Just makes my life sound a little bit tragic, really, doesn't it?
Would you listen to that show, Tim?
I would.
I don't think I would.
No.
And I listen to that show every week. They release the same day as we do. It's a nice double feature for anyone who's not us, who have to listen to this podcast while recording and editing. I can't say enough kind words about 2 Blokes from Blighty. It's the story about Tim shitting on a toilet lid is pretty good, and I think that's also very good promo work, because you have to go back and listen. You have to go back and find that episode, because they don't, like, I think the titles might give it away, but you would still have to go back and find it to listen to it. It's not like a story they share every other week or something, but it's good stuff.
I'm going to need a moment. I'm currently tagging them in our Discord, asking about context. Like, Was the lid closed? Was he trying an upper decker and failed? Was the lid out in the forest? And he's like, you know what?
You have to go back and listen to the episode. That's what I'm telling you. That's great promo work, because now you have to go back and find the episode, listen to all the early season episodes, and then find that one episode that you're waiting for.
We have lost so many listeners of like, oh great, Alex is on a tangent, wondering where somebody poops.
Well, joke's on you. He poops in a litter box in my basement.
Josh, I have a question for you.
What is that? I was going to say, is the answer 42?
No.
No. Oh.
So we're going to talk about the wild robot and impressions and feelings and stuff like that.
Impressions, you say?
But I have two questions for you. One, did you take your children?
I took all three, actually.
Okay. All right. Two, between you and your beloved, were there enough arms to console them during the sad parts?
Actually, no. I should say yes. They all held their own pretty well, even the 3-year-old. From a parental perspective, I'm going to say there's 3 things you need to know ahead of time. 4 things. I'll say 4. One. If you're a mother. Impressions. So 1, if you're a mother, especially, like as a father, I almost cried in at least 2 different moments. But 1, as a mother, especially, I think, Ricky told me to make sure I preface this. As a mother, you're going to cry at this movie.
Aww.
2, there should have been some kind of seizure warning at the front of this movie, because there is some like flashing strobe lights for a thunderstorm that happens. It's like 5 seconds, but again, if you're someone, or if your kid is susceptible to seizures through strobe lights, like that's something that I feel like should be made apparent. And I'm pretty sure there will likely be a story coming out about a child having a seizure seeing this movie at some point. I hope that doesn't deter people from going to this movie. Just again, I hope that there's some kind of pre-warning that comes established through this. The third, oh shit, I lost my train of thought now.
See, the thunder and lightning were very, very frightening.
Thunder or lightning, and baby said, "Dance, magic dance."
Damn it!
I'm all over the place. I had so much fun with this movie that I don't want to talk about the movie. It's so good.
Come on, you can remember. You're halfway through the list. You got.
I am, and it's only 4 things. What did we say?
If you're a mother, prepare for sad parts.
Mother, prepare for sad parts. Bring your own tissues.
Yeah.
Seizure warning for any parents who have. And then, like similar vein of the seizure warning, if you have a kid that's susceptible to sound sensitivities, like they're afraid of like thunderstorms, like my eldest is, bring earmuffs, whatever they have, to kind of like comfort them and just give them a little extra feeling of safety. And then the last one, I don't remember what it is at this point. I think I forget what I added onto the list. It'll come back to me in like minute 45 or something of this podcast. But this was a fantastic movie. I don't know how long we're going to sit here and critique it, because I don't know what you can critique about this. The trailers kind of tell you the whole story. There's not a lot you can spoil. There is like one thing in the middle of the movie that we'll get into a little bit later that I do think is worthwhile mentioning, because it's a big world building moment. But overall, like, it's exactly what I wanted from this movie. Like, I've been waiting for this movie since I saw the trailer for it in front of Spy Family Code White, and the beautiful electronic What a Wonderful World trailer, where you just get so much of the imagery of the movie. And then the other trailers that they've given, they don't give away a whole lot, but if you have any kind of media literacy, you can piece together what the movie is about. And so like there's nothing that would extraordinarily surprise you about this movie, but there's so many little touches that create such an amazing experience that, again, if you're not looking for them, they'll go right over your head, or if until the movie brings them to your attention, they go over your head, especially. But one thing I did want to bring up real quick is this is based on a book by Peter Brown, also called The Wild Robot. And this is a little bit of trivia I found from IMDb that was kind of cool. So the robot's name is Rosm, and then they have a designation, Rosm 0792 and stuff like that. But they shorten it to Roz. But Peter Brown created the word or gave the robots the name Rosm because it's a nod to the 1920 scientific stage play Rossum's Universal Robots, which the robots are Rosm's Universal whatever. Universal Dynamics is the company that creates them. But it's written by a Czech writer named Karl Capek, and his brother Joseph Capek, again, not sure how you would pronounce it, but they introduced the word robot into the English language through this stage play. And so Peter Brown's kind of paying homage to that by giving the robots the name Rosm through the stage play. Just kind of a cool little thing that he did. And then just big shout out to the guy because he's been very active on social media promoting the film as well as his book. And to me, like, get it, man. Like, make sure everyone knows that this is based off your book, because God knows the studios won't.
This surprised me that it was a DreamWorks movie, because the hand-in-hand emotional depth of seriousness, but also slapstick, but then the emotional core, but the also treating a children's story as something that is educational and not just the typical fair. DreamWorks did used to have, How to Train Your Dragon, I think, did that well. Mm-hmm. But lately, they, with Bad Guys, Boss Baby, Trolls, they have what the Shrek movies became, other than the newest Puss in Boots.
I was going to say Puss in Boots is a big one that is something that needs to be in the house of comparing these films.
Yes. But they don't typically put something like this out. And it is a new IP. Ooh, scary. What is this? It's not the sequels of the summer where every movie that is a sequel makes $1 billion. This movie surprised me in its intelligence. It surprised me in its emotional core. It is beautiful to look at. It took me a little bit for my eyes to adjust, because a few times I thought this looks kind of blurry, kind of weird. What are they going for her? And then I suddenly realized, Fink, the fox, that those are brush strokes, that they purposely tried to make it look hand drawn, that they did some, like, he has a little throne that gets built for him, a little nest that's mossy, and those are little bubble like dots and textures that they built out of it. And that threw me a little bit, because at first I was like, oh, this looks really off. But then I realized how beautiful it actually was. I'm so used to a CGI movie going the Pixar route of, we're going to make, he's like, the next upgrade to their engine, they're just basically going to be like, we filmed it live action. We filmed it live action in these computers, never stepped outside at all. But this is actually trying to play with it. Not in the way that yes, actually kind of in the way the Spider-Verse is.
It's very Spider-Verse inspired.
Yes. Yeah, the Spider-Verse very much wants it to look like a comic book, which sometimes does hurt my eyes because of the bubbles from the ink printer, kind of like the little dots that they do. This one just was, once I realized the texture, I just kind of let it wash over me, and I was like, this is beautiful to watch. This is engaging. There's adult jokes in there that, when spoilers, one that I will say that they should have pushed further, just because I like gallows humor. But the story is simple. It is kind. It's a brisk, like, 99 minutes total or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it has an emotional core. And I will, there's also one more thing I want to praise. The main two voice actors are Lupita Nyong'o as Rosm and Pedro Pascal as Fink. This is one of the times where I'm like, thank you for hiring celebrities. I did not recognize their voices, and they were fantastic.
Yeah, this is a star-studded cast. Like, these are a bunch of people like, but they use them so well. Like, the bear is voiced by Mark Hamill, and I couldn't tell it was Mark Hamill.
Nope. Did not realize that.
He usually does just like a variation on his Joker voice if he's doing like a grim, gritty voice. But in this one, he brought something else out of it. And just to run through the top build here, you've got, like you said, Lupita Nyong'o, Pedro Pascal, Kit Connor plays grown-up Brightbill, Bill Nighy plays Longneck, the Good Goose, Stephanie Sue, who... again, if it does not go to Angela Bassett for Black Panther 2, Stephanie Sue should have been the best supporting actress, not Jamie Lee Curtis. I 1000% believe that the Academy just was like, we can't not let a white person not win an award for acting at some point in this thing. Let's give it to Jamie Lee Curtis. And like, no shade on Jamie Lee Curtis for that role. She just wasn't in it enough to get that damn award. So again, that should have gone to Angela Bassett or Stephanie Sue. I think if either of those two were the ones that got it, I'm okay with it. But Jamie Lee Curtis, for the role she performed in Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is a tangent I don't need to be talking about right now. I'm not supposed to be angry. I'm supposed to be happy. Sorry. Stephanie Sue was Vantra, who is basically the villain at the end of the film because there needs to be an action sequence at the end of the movie. The always wonderful Matthew Barry as the beaver paddler, who has the best line in the film as well. Do you know what I'm referring to, Alex?
He has a few good ones. So
my favorite one was male bovine excrement.
Oh yes, said with that grandiose authority of his.
Oh my God, that's a line that's so many kids are gonna grow up and all of a sudden be like, oh my God, he just said bullshit.
Yup.
Ving Rhames plays Thunderbolt. Again, Mark Hamill. And then Catherine O'Hara is once again a possum. I think she was a possum in Over the Hedge. She was one of the mother animals in Over the Hedge. I think, no, William Shatner and who's the clone singer? Skater Boy. Avril Lavigne.
Yeah.
William Shatner and Avril Lavigne were the possums. I forget who the mom was. And
she was a porcupine.
Porcupine. Okay. Yeah. Possum in this one. The kid possums were also very good. I think that's where my kids like them the best, because at the big action sequence, there's a possum kid that like pops up in front of one of the big battle robots and is like, "Are you here to kill us?" And the robot says something like "exterminate," and they turn around immediately and just go, "He said yes." My kids, that was my kid's favorite joke in the entire movie. And I'm like, just wait till you understand the male bovine excrement.
Normally I get very annoyed by these like star-studded casts because I'm like, you're just bloating the budget. They didn't provide anything. But Matt Berry, you're bringing him because of his personality and because you want him to shade like he does. And Bill Nighy provides that grandioseness of the good older goose, long neck, who's teaching. Catherine O'Hara, I have no problem. Catherine O'Hara was perfect. That possum, she had some great lines as well, especially when she's like, when the baby possums are like, you're calling us names from the previous litter, and she's like, okay, what,
she's so over it.
Yeah. And then she's teaching Rosam how to take care of her children. She's like, and just some of them die. I have 7, and there's a crunching sound and a scream.
You hear a little roar and a crunch. Yeah.
And she's like, 6, and she doesn't even like care. She's like, yep, down to 6 on this litter.
And then all of a sudden she comes back and the little one's like, I'm okay. And then she's just like, oh, yay. Thank goodness.
So the voice acting, I especially love that seeing the credits roll, and it was Lupita Nyong'o and Pedro Pascal. I didn't recognize them. And that made me happy, because if I was just like, okay, this is another Mando part, or this is him doing one of his other voices, whatever. But they sold the roles. They worked well. The personalities they definitely deserve praise for being good voice actors versus people who show up for a paycheck. And I loved it. Like I said, I didn't know it was them. Credits were rolling. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and I just sent you a link. You might have to copy and paste it, but apparently Roz and Brightbill made an appearance at the red carpet for the Wild Robot premiere. And all I have to say is Dreamworks is missing out if they don't release plushes of those Brightbill miniatures. Oh my God, that is so adorable.
I need one. It is adorable. Oh, I'm gonna buy one, and it's gonna rest on my shoulder.
I will love him, and I will pet him, and I will call him George. Impressions.
What are you? You're squishy. You're my squishy friend. Ow, my squishy friend hurt me.
Yeah, I agree. The voice cast is phenomenal, and I hate having to praise a voice cast made comprised mostly of like name actors, but they hit the ball out of the park with this one. Like, everyone fit the role perfectly, and like you said, they didn't feel like like, oh yeah, that's Pedro Pascal just doing a Pedro Pascal thing, but they animated it. Or oh, that's like Lupita Nyong'o is an amazing actress. She has been fantastic in everything she does. And we praised her earlier this year with A Quiet Place Day One, and she's doing it again here, where she's just. And this is where I'm going to start praising not just the voice work, but like the sound design and the audio, because in the trailers you kind of hear the robotic undertone of everything Roz says, like, can I help you with this? It's got like that robot warble underneath it. And then there's a little bit of a time jump. And I didn't notice it until a little bit later after there had been a conflict and Roz like ended up finding her crash site and finds other Roz robots. But once she boots up the other robots, you hear that robotic tone in their voice, and hers is completely gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God. Like, I didn't even catch it because I've already been so connected to this character and this robot. But like, now that I hear it talking against itself, essentially, before all of these experiences, like, you can hear it. It has become a thing, and it does like the Star Trek thing, or just like any good science fiction thing of like, what is life, what is intelligence, and like, has Roz become something more? Like, has she gone Johnny Five? Has she what has she become beyond her programming? And like, that's something that if and when this movie gets a sequel, like, I think that's some of the stuff that the books kind of explore, is what is life, what creates a personality, what creates a person, and where does that put them in the world. And like, putting a robot in the middle of wildlife and having it adapt and openly acknowledge that it needs to move beyond its basic parameters and functions to be able to still meet its required tasks. Like, she's still operating within her prerogative, but she's doing it in a way that would normally not happen because she would be confined by everything else that would be around her. So like, being in a completely different environment brings out a different side of her, brings out a new purpose while still being herself, essentially. Like, it's a beautiful message. And it's something that, again, just kids are going to grow up with this movie and they're going to find new things to love and discover about the messaging of this film. Sort of like, again, this is the movie that I'm known for most at this point, a Goofy movie. Like, yeah, back in 1995, it's Goofy and his son going on a road trip, blah, blah, blah. But as you grow up and you have life experiences, your relationship with your parents change. Your relationship with your parents grows, and you kind of move beyond parents to friends, and like, what does that look like? And especially in this movie too, where if you're adopted, like, that becomes a whole different conversation too, because I think that's, if I have one gripe in this movie, that's one that, again, I'll save maybe for like a really brief spoiler window. That's something that I'm going to bring up here, speaking of the adoption stuff. But overall, like, kids are going to take different things from this, and especially, again, like, adopted kids and kids that grow up in like a single mom household. This movie is going to strike a lot of boxes and a lot of emotional resonance as kids grow up with it, especially if it becomes a franchise.
No, I agree with that. And I will reference a movie that is near and dear to me, which is that as you grow up, you have a different emotional cores, like The Three Amigos. When as a child, it's just funny. As an adult, you realize it's actually a movie that is critiquing the exploitation of the below the line working class and within the studio system. So it's actually a very good, strong subversion of the movie studio system.
Yeah, and this movie in and of itself, the success of this movie, which I know you're mostly joking, but like, you're not entirely wrong. This movie was made for roughly $78 million on a production budget, which that probably went mostly into the animation, which you think it looks cheap, but if you really look at this movie, and again, this is one of those movies that you can pause it at any moment and you can frame it. Like, that's something that would go up in an art museum somewhere. Mm-hmm. And there's one moment where Brightbill, the Gosling, after he does his first migration, when he comes back and he finds Roz's hut empty, I was stunned in that scene. Like, the coloring, the shading, just the framing of that shot is absolutely gorgeous. Like, the movie has been colorful, vibrant, beautiful almost this entire time. And then Brightbill comes into this hut that's now empty and cold. and it looked like it came out of a book, like a children's book, but like that beautiful sketch art where the coloring is kind of a little messy too. You just have the silhouette of the door entryway lighting the entire space, but there's shadows everywhere else. And then you just have Brightbill standing in the light with a long shadow entering the room. It's a gorgeous shot. And that just stood out to me. Like it's almost like the way a lot of people, myself included, responded to the Haldo maneuver in The Last Jedi, where it's just a moment of just cinematic beauty in a moment of silence. And it just, oh, it was so good. And we're going to transition here in a second into talking about like where this stands in like the Academy Award running for everything for us, where we think it'll go. But I'll let you kind of tie things up before we get into a little bit more spoiler discussion here, Alex.
Yeah, I have nothing but praise for this movie. You've seen this plot of throwing together families, of the person who's not supposed to be taking care of a child who now must take care of it and the fall in love. The emotional beats are all there that you're expecting from a movie, something like this. What is unexpected in this movie is that for being a quote unquote cartoon children's movie is how serious they take it and how they carry the journey and subvert little moments, especially the ending, which just should not be most of the emotional crux should not be ruined. But there is a subversion that happens there as well that is unexpected. I could feel them building to it, but I didn't think they would do it, and they did. And it's beautiful. Like you said, for me, one of the pieces of artwork that I would love to framed is at the end, there is a fire in the forest. And normally what you expect, especially you have the bright, beautiful colors of Fink and the goslings and all the different animals, you expect like this rich orange fire, but they subvert that. They didn't subvert it, that's not subversion, but they change the fire to be this neon pinkish glow that is more haunting, and it's just like the same color. It's the same spectrum of color palette. When Roz's and the evil robot's eyes flash to red, it's that red, that pink. So you know there's this encroaching evil that is affecting the animals and stuff like that. And it's a good movie. It opened to about 35 in the U.S. and I think total of 58 worldwide. It deserves so much more than this. I'm not saying it deserves more. Let's get some sequels rolling out. No, it deserves more because it's a good story. It is a new story told a different way, told with the heart to emotionally impact and to last. And I want this movie to be a success, to ride out and hopefully become some kind of generational milestone for people to remember, like, I loved The Good Robot growing up. I don't want this like lost in streaming on Peacock or wherever it ends up in like 3 months and people are like, oh yeah, it hit the top 10 briefly and is gone.
I do think that's a legitimate concern for this movie. Is if it opened to 58 million worldwide, which compared to its budget, that's pretty good. It worldwide, it made more than half of its budget back, like 2/3 of its budget back. But I think the loss of physical media could be a big impact on the legacy of this movie. Like, there's nothing about this movie that says it should be forgotten to time, and there's nothing about this movie that says it should be anything but a success. But the loss of physical media, especially like I have a van with a DVD player. Like, my kids love going through our DVD shelf and picking out movies to watch on drives. And I couldn't imagine not having this movie in my collection for my kids to watch on the drive at some point. And again, I brought my 3-year-old to this movie, and she's barely 3. Her attention span is that of a butterfly. Like, she cannot keep her eyes on something for 100 minutes. And for the most part, she was engaged with this movie. There are slower parts where she decided she needed to climb on her seat or anything like that. But like, we asked her to sit down and she did, and she kept her eyes on the screen for probably another 15, 20, 30 minutes. And then again, it would slow down, and then like there'd be more pretty pictures on the screen, and she would kind of bring her attention back. My 2 older kids were engulfed the entire time. And I can't even say that about Transformers 1. That's one thing I forgot to bring up when I was talking with Justin and Caesar, is that Transformers 1, like it lagged so badly in a couple spots where my 2 kids that I brought with me, they just decided to start asking me questions, and I'm like, I'm watching the movie too. I don't know entirely what's going on here. But with this one, they were just in it for the ride. They were there. They were brought in on everything. And I think part of that is, again, due to the beautiful animation, let alone the heart of the story, because they could connect to it. And I think that's something great. And this is 1000% a must see, and I will say a must buy when it comes out on physical media. Find it. I don't give a shit if it's on Amazon at this point. If you need to buy it through Amazon, buy it through Amazon so you have a physical copy of this movie, because most everything has a digital copy attached to the physical. So buy the physical copy and then redeem the digital. I don't care.
Yeah, agreed. Must see. Buy it. Love it. Hold it. Wear out that Blu-ray player.
So really quickly, I do want to talk some mild spoilers. The first one I wanted to talk about was, again, speaking of the art, and again, moms especially, or even just like dads who love their little potato babies, because like that's what all babies are until they're like 8 months old. They're just little sacks of potatoes that you just stick on your shoulder and you just cuddle with. And the one of the moments I cried was after Brightbill went off on his first migration, and Roz is sitting there touching her neck, and you can see that spot that he has worn out in her neck from the cuddles. All I could think of in that moment is, I want to snuggle my like newborn baby again. I want that warmth right there on my shoulder and my neck. Like, I was getting weepy thinking about it. I'm getting a little teary eyed now. That moment was just beautiful. And like the sequence leading up to him taking off and where he's like, I need a boost. Though that was the one that like broke me. Like, that was me being like, oh man, in 10 years, my oldest is going to be going off to college. In 10 years, in 15 years, like my youngest is going to be doing this. Like, 15 years is not that long. Ricky and I have been together 12 years, and it feels like it's been yesterday. Like, there's so much in this that would resonate with any parent, let alone just like the little nuances of things like that. Like, again, like I had to ask Ricky, I'm like, was my mind just making that up, or was there like a worn out spot in her neck from where Brightbill was like snuggling into her? And he's like, yeah, she definitely had that spot. And like, speaks to the art style where it's just subtle enough that you can see it, but it's there and you can see it, and it's so good. But the two spoiler things that I really, really wanted to talk about, one is like the really quick world building, which also takes place immediately after Brightbill takes off from his first migration. We find out that this is a post global warming catastrophe world. San Francisco is buried underneath the ocean. You see the remnants of the Golden Gate Bridge rusting over. And I was taken back to the underappreciated Steven Spielberg / Stanley Kubrick film, AI, Artificial Intelligence, when we see that like New York is buried underneath a frozen ocean, and like it took me by surprise. I was just like, okay, we're in a fantasy world where futuristic things are happening. Like, it doesn't have to be Earth. Like, yeah, there's beavers and possums and everything, but like, this could just be anywhere, whatever. But no, they take a moment to actually be like, global warming happened and society is fucked, but there's this little pocket of nature happening, and Roz is making it a better place.
For me, I cried at the end because the last moments between the characters, because I knew it was coming, I knew it was going to happen, and I don't care. The second that it happened, I cried, and then the credits rolled, and I was happy. Just a few little tears rolling down. I'm like, that's the ending I needed. I won't spoil it because people should just go see it. But there's a moment, a connection, a happiness.
That part I loved, but that's also my gripe. My one complaint of this movie.
How dare you?
Brightbill never called her mom again.
Oh yeah.
I would have broke down crying at any point towards the end of that film if he had he said I love you. He said I love you to her. But I think there needed to be some kind of moment where he called her mom one more time. Because that to me that felt like what it was building up towards. Like, obviously it was building up towards her saying I love you, because as a robot she doesn't know what love is. But she asks Fink at one point, like, what is love? How do you know you love something, or how do you know you love someone? And it's obviously building towards Brightbill kind of coming to terms with the circumstances of Roz coming into being his adoptive mother, which that whole sequence was surprisingly dark. Like I did not expect that. I thought he was just gonna be like an abandoned egg. I didn't expect them to be like, oh damn, Roz like accidentally killed his mom
And siblings.
and siblings. Yeah, which like he was on the verge of hatching, so like shouldn't the other ones have been around too, like somehow? I don't know, maybe they fell off the cliff, who knows.
It happens really quickly.
It does, yeah. But you just see like Roz pick up a wing and it's limp, and it's clearly a full grown duck goose of some kind, and it's like, oh damn. So like that was surprisingly dark. But it works, and it to your point that you said earlier, Alex, it doesn't talk down to kids, and I think that's what makes a lot of these animated films so good, is that it treats kids in a way where they walk away happy with what they just watched, but then they come back and watch it again, and they don't walk away sad, but they walk away a little more aware of things. Like kind of like The Land Before Time, where like the original Land Before Time is like, it's like a story of grief and overcoming grief. And I mean, Littlefoot's mother's death probably played a bigger role for me than like Mufasa's death, which I know for like an entire generation, everyone's like, oh, Mufasa's death destroyed me. I was like, did you not see Littlefoot's mom? Like, that's worse, in my opinion.
Brave Little Toaster.
Brave Little Toaster, yeah. Like, there's
That's
a whole
nightmare fuel.
80s animated features were not for the faint of heart.
No.
But I think that's part of what makes this movie so good, is that it does not talk down to kids. Same thing with How to Train Your Dragon, and I think that's where, and The Last Wish, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, like these are movies that, yeah, they are fun. They have lighthearted moments, but they don't treat kids like idiots. They don't treat the storytelling like it's simplistic. They have nuance, they have layers, and it's what makes these movies so good. So before we go, I kind of wanted to talk about where this fits into the pantheon of at least 2024's best films. Like this, we have 3 locks, I think, for best animated feature nominees. You have The Wild Robot, you have Inside Out 2, and I'm going to assume Transformers 1 is going to get like a little like, you did it, buddy, kind of nod. But I think there's also, I think it's a Hungarian film, or I think it's Hungarian. It's an animated movie called Flow, which looks like it was, it looks like it was made through an Unreal Engine using the like Little Kitty Big City assets, and then they just kind of animated additional animals through it. Apparently there's no dialogue in the film. It's all pantomime, which like very cool, very interesting. I could see that one getting a nomination as well, just because again, it's a perceived kids movie, quote unquote, that is taking big swings in storytelling mechanics. And then I would guess maybe Lord of the Rings: War of the Rohirrim will be the 5th nomination, but anything else beyond The Wild Robot and Inside Out 2 and maybe Flow, I think are just like courtesy nods. Like, we need to have 5, let's just find 2 more. So The Wild Robot not opening spectacularly, but it's also not opening in the middle of the summer. So maybe Despicable Me 4 will get the other nod. I don't know. Universal probably should just ignore Despicable Me 4 and focus it separate on The Wild Robot. Legitimately, I love both Inside Out 2 and The Wild Robot. I think The Wild Robot could take it just because it's a new IP, where Inside Out 2 is obviously a sequel, but it deals with other stuff that's still prevalent, like anxiety and mental health. Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious where you kind of sit in if you had a vote in the Academy or the BAFTAs or whatever it is, the Golden Globe company, where would you rank these?
I need to see Flow, and I'm going to go see The War of the Rohirrim. The only thing that bothers me about that currently is that I'm feeling underwhelmed by the continued mining of the Lord of the Rings. It's like there's the Silmarillion. There's a bunch of stuff to pull from. Do find that the anime art style fascinating, but it didn't sit right with me just how it looked. something seemed a little off. It seemed like they weren't given the proper budget. I don't know.
It looked very generic anime to me.
Yes.
Like it looked like any other anime I've ever seen.
I loved Inside Out too. I thought it was great, but ultimately it felt like a bit of a retread. How many more emotions? Because they already announced they're doing a third one. So how many more emotions can they keep just kind of bringing up there? I guess nostalgia, or they joked about that one, but I don't know where they keep going with the story. Because yes, having emotions, mental depression, all these things, you're working through them your entire life. I'm not sure I want to continue watching movies about working through my emotions. But this one, The Wild Robot, just hit me in such a lovely way. It was unexpected. It was new. It was I leaned towards it because my expectations were low, and it exceeded them and kept exceeding them as the movie went on. As I became engrossed with it, as I expected more of it, it kept giving it to me. And that is currently that I want it. I just do. I want it to be recognized. I want it to win. I want it to be I want it to be rewarded. Chris Sanders, the director and writer, who was with Disney for a long time, he left after Lilo and Stitch, which he wrote and directed and voiced Stitch. He was the original writer-director of How to Train Your Dragons, then did The Croods.
Which The Croods is a little underrated too.
Like it is underrated.
It's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it's better than other things. Like, especially in my opinion, it's better than the Shrek movies. Like, yes. I am not a fan of the Shrek movies at all. You can at me all day. I don't care. I will stand my ground with the Shrek movies. They're too juvenile, I think. Like, and there's places for that, but to be heralded as what they are, and I believe Shrek, the first Shrek, is also like the first animated Academy Award winner for the new animated feature category when they introduced that in like 1999 or 2001, whatever it was. And again, that's putting more stock in what the Academy and what awards truly mean. Like, I'll gripe about how I don't care, but at the same time, I understand that there's recognition and prestige that comes with it. And yes, Shrek 1 is a subversion of the Disney ethos and what Disney was doing behind the scenes, and like how horrible of a corporation it is. Like, I get it, but it also doesn't mean I have to like it. Just like I understand The Dark Knight Returns is a great comic. I don't care for it. I don't want to read it every other month and be like, oh my God, it's the greatest thing ever. Hang it in the Louvre. It's just not for me. It's not what I connect with, and it's not something that I'm endeared to. But I can still acknowledge that it has historical significance, even though they immediately dated themselves by putting All-Star, which, because of nostalgia, All-Star has become popular again in some fashion, and also because like the popularity and what Shrek did kind of never let it leave the zeitgeist, even though it became a joke song after a while. But overall, like, DreamWorks has a long-standing history of very good and very bad movies. I'm looking at you, Shark Tale. But The Wild Robot is immediately up there with the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy. It's up there with Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which, like, Puss in Boots and The Last Wish being tied to the Shrek franchise does not make sense at all. But it's there, so it has to. I really hope this does end up taking home the Best Picture Academy Award, because I think it takes enough swings. It's overall, it's everything you want in an animated feature. It's visually stunning. The sound design is there. The voice acting is there. The characterization is there. Like, everyone has a role and a purpose. Anyone who speaks serves some kind of storyline purpose. They're not just there to sell merchandise. Like,
yeah.
I just said, Alex and I both want a baby Brightbill plushie. I will buy that day one if it becomes available. DreamWorks, send me the link. Like, if your AI is listening, send me the link, tsmackpod@gmail.com. I will buy one for me and Alex the minute I get that email. Pay full price plus shipping. But just because it's a kids movie and there's merchandising opportunities does not mean that it's not good and beautiful. And this movie is everything that is good and beautiful about animation.
I agree. And I think that is a good place to end on, except I have to tell you my gallows humor joke.
Okay. Great place to end, but
So when the possum says 7 and then it goes to 6, I was really hoping that throughout the rest of the movie, every time she showed up, there was just one less possum.
that would have been good.
That's my only thing. I have nothing further to add. That was my. I was really hoping that she was like, oh, 7, 6, and it just moved on, and then like a few minutes later, 5, 4, 3.
So that reminds me, the stupid like millennial movie nerd in me that watched CinemaSins for 2 years of my life that I'll never get back.
Yeah.
Like everyone's been corrupted by the CinemaSins nitpicking bullshit. There was a moment on the drive home where I'm like, Roz kind of fucked up the ecosystem of that.
Oh, completely. No.
They're all friends and they're not going to eat each other now, even though it's been established that they've been hunting and eating each other and eating other animals that aren't the main cast for a long time. And now they're all friends and like hibernating in Roz's hut every winter. And it's like, that bear's going to die.
Oh, no. That, as I was driving home, I was like, oh, and then of course a little teaser at the very, very end. I had the exact same thing. I was like, what are they going to eat now that they don't eat each other? I mean, does the fox just become an
Maybe they're just going to go on an all goose diet since every other goose that's not Brightbill is a dick.
That's what it is.
Long neck's gone, so like we don't have to worry about like upsetting the cool elder.
Yeah.
Brightbill, like he's the runt, but like has he been accepted as the new leader or something because Longneck took a liking to him? Like what's the hierarchy there? Let's just make everyone a goose dinner that's not Brightbill. Like that seems okay.
Yeah, I mean, there are apparently hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of geese on that island.
There's way too many.
More.
Like, yeah, that's breaking the ecosystem right there with how many there are.
So that's what it is. They start eating all the geese that are not Brightbill.
All right. Well, let's get out of here, Alex. Let everyone know about the Discord.
You can join our Discord. It's tsmackpod@gmail.com. There's a link down below. And don't forget, Josh requested you at him to fight him about Shrek. And I would like you to at me to ask me some questions about how much gallows humor can we add to this movie. Because I have a few other thoughts. And they're not comfortable for a children's cartoon.
And with that, also, don't forget to follow us on all the social media platforms. We're at Talking Smack Pod on Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, Hive Social, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and of course, Lonnie's website. I am trying to figure out Tumblr. That came out a recommendation from an upcoming episode. So I'm trying to figure out what the hell Tumblr is. I can feel my hair turning gray as I'm trying to like sit through Tumblr. I don't know what's going on with it, but we're trying to figure that out and get it on Tumblr. Email us your thoughts, questions, reviews, comments, concerns at tsmackpod@gmail.com. Thank you to Leo Allen for our musical themes, Beppo for our original avatars, Retro L Studios for our Ricky avatar. Please like, subscribe, rate, review on your podcatcher of choice. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, please. We want to do more stuff. We need more subscriptions. We need more reviews and engagement. So don't be afraid to subscribe and come back. And most importantly, Alex, thank you so much for being here. And you, dear listener, thank you for being here and taking the time to listen. Please take care, and we will see you next week when we make sure everyone feels very old when we talk about John Wick came out 10 years ago?
No.
Unfortunately, it did.
No. That's way
And
too long ago.
It's going to feel like tomorrow when we go, the Wild Robot trilogy is already done? Watch The Wild Robot. Go to theaters, see it, buy the Blu-ray, and then watch Star Trek.
Are you dying? Do everyone a favor and expire downstream.